My wife always defended her male best friend's nasty remarks by saying, "That's just his very dry British wit, you have to understand." I replied, "Ah, got it." So I accidentally added his wife to a group chat and posted a greatest hits collection of his hilarious jokes, all of them about her. Now he's having to explain that famous wit to a divorce attorney. My wife Clara has a massive blind spot, and it's shaped exactly like her oldest male friend Julian. They met when she spent a semester in London 10 years ago, and in her mind he's permanently shielded from criticism. In my mind, he's an insufferable prat who hides behind banter. His specialty is the drive-by put-down. He'll slip in a vicious little dig about your looks, your career, or your partner, then immediately wave it away with a laugh and the phrase, "Only joking." If anyone dares look uncomfortable, Clara instantly swoops in with her standard line, delivered with a fond little eye roll. "Oh, come on, that's just Julian's very British sense of humor." Apparently being British grants you a lifetime license to be a complete arsehole and still be adored. I swallowed it for years. I sat through his sneers about my naive American cheerfulness, his eye rolling at my taste in beer, films, music, everything. I did it because I love Clara, and Julian was mostly background noise. But lately his jokes have grown darker, and he's developed a particular obsession with using his own wife Amelia as the punch bag. Amelia is gentle, soft-spoken, and clearly worships the ground he walks on. Conveniently, she's never present when he unleashes his stand-up routine on the rest of us. Last weekend was the final straw. Julian came over for drinks while Amelia was away visiting her sister. We were on our second glass when he launched into a story about a dinner party they'd hosted that apparently went wrong. He wrapped it up with, "The entire evening was a disaster, naturally, because Amelia in the kitchen is basically a badger operating a food processor. I'm convinced her finest creation to date is slightly charred tap water." He threw his head back and roared at his own brilliance. Clara laughed right along with him and shot me the familiar lighten-up glance that I didn't laugh. I looked him in the eye and said, "That's a pretty shitty thing to say about the woman you married." His grin froze. "Relax, mate, it's a joke. She knows I don't mean it." Clara leapt in instantly. "Mark, seriously, it's just his British sense of humor. It's a bit sharper than we're used to here. You can't take everything so literally. Sharper, not cruel, not demeaning. Sharper." Did I end that moment, watching my wife defend another man's right to publicly humiliate his own spouse. A cold, crystalline clarity settled over me. I smiled politely and said, "Ah, I see. Julian isn't only a live performer. He's also a compulsive texter. For the past year, he's kept a 3-person group chat alive with me and Clara, occasionally dropping in his pearls of wisdom. Most of it is dull, but scattered throughout are absolute gems of cruelty aimed squarely at Amelia that I had never cleared the chat. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I must have known the archive would come in handy. That night, after he left, I scrolled back. It was a treasure trove, point one from a few weeks earlier. Amelia's trying on outfits for the Henderson wedding and keeps asking which I prefer. It's like being asked which Willie bin I'd rather take on vacation. Both equally cumbersome. Another classic. Spent the day with Amelia's parents. Now I fully understand her personality. It's hereditary despair expressed through magnolia paint and overboiled cabbage. My personal favorite was a photo of a gleaming red Ferrari with the caption, "My midlife crisis is going to be legendary. Amelia's will probably be upgrading to a slightly more exotic herbal tea. We are simply not the same species." Taken together, it wasn't sharp. It was a sustained campaign of contempt. And Clara had read every single one in real time and never once typed, Dude, not cool. A plan crystallized, simple, clean, and, most importantly, completely deniable. Clara's birthday is next month. Perfect cover. I would start a new group chat to organize a surprise party. I'd invite a handful of our mutual friends, and then, whoops, my thumb would slip and I'd add the wrong contact. We have a friend named Amy. Julian's wife is Amelia. Easy mistake, right? I created the chat, titled it Clara's Surprise Birthday Shenanigans, and added 4 safe friends plus Clara's sister. Then, with the calm of a bomb technician, I added Amelia instead of Amy. I let it sit quiet for an hour, just a couple of innocent messages about possible dates. Then I curated 5 of Julian's finest screenshots, pasted them into the chat, and typed underneath, "Hey team, while we're talking funny ideas for Clara's party, I just stumbled across these old gems. From Julian. The man is a bloody comedic legend. Peak British banter. Had to share." I placed my phone face up on the coffee table, poured myself a whiskey, and waited for the fireworks. Update 1: the explosion was faster and more glorious than I dared hope. Less than a minute later, the first reply popped up, from Amelia. "I don't understand. Mark, are these real?" Before I could type my horrified apology, Clara fired off a frantic all-caps message. "Mark, what are you doing? Delete this right now. Amelia is in the chat." Perfection. That I hammered out my Oscar-worthy response. "Oh my God. Amelia, I am so sorry. I swear I thought I added our friend Amy. This is mortifying. Please ignore those. Total accident." Of course, the screenshots were already burned into her retinas forever. The chat went graveyard silent. Then Amelia simply left the group without another word. That quiet exit was somehow more devastating than any screaming paragraph would have been. My phone immediately started blowing up. Clara calling, ignored. Julian calling, ignored. A flood of texts from Clara. "Pick up. You did this deliberately. Amelia isn't answering anyone. Julian is losing his mind. This is on you." I let them marinate for 20 delicious minutes, finished my drink, then rang Clara back sounding like a man who just accidentally set his own house on fire. "Sweetheart, I am horrified, truly. Honest mistake. I must have tapped the wrong Amelia/Amy. I feel sick. She wasn't having it. Don't insult me, Mark. You've hated Julian from day one. You did this to sabotage everything." "Sabotage?" I repeated, all innocent confusion. "They were jokes, Clara. His famous British sense of humor. The edgy stuff you're always telling me to appreciate. I was just sharing the love. I'm sure Amelia will see the funny side once it's explained properly." I actually heard the gears strip in her brain as I fed her own words back to her. "It's different when it's laid out like that," she spluttered. "It's taken out of context. What context makes comparing your wife to a wheelie bin funny?" I asked sweetly. She hung up on me. Julian rang again. This time I picked up. The smug charmer was gone. In his place was a trembling wreck. "Mark, fix this. Amelia's seen everything. She won't speak to me. Ring her. Tell her it was a prank. Anything. A prank," I said, ice cold. "I thought it was just your world-class comedy, mate. I was genuinely complimenting you to our friends. Surely your own wife gets the joke better than anyone." He started to swear. I cut him off. "Go explain the cultural nuance to her yourself, Julian. I'm sure she'll be in stitches." Click. Clara stormed through the door an hour later, ghost pale and shaking. The fight was volcanic. She screamed that I was jealous, controlling, and vicious. She demanded I drive over that instant and apologize to both of them. Nothing to apologize for, I said, leaning against the counter. According to you, Julian did absolutely nothing wrong. It was just banter. The only crime here is my fat finger syndrome with contact names. Are you actually saying his entire personality collapses because of one tiny clerical error? She yelled. No, I said quietly. I'm saying the mask came off the second his own victim saw what you've been happily laughing at for years. You don't get to be mad at me because the spotlight finally showed what was really there. She had nothing. For once, absolutely nothing. She slept in the guest room that night. The battle lines were drawn. Update 2-3 weeks later and the ripples from my little accident have become tidal waves. Julian's world imploded first, and spectacularly, Amelia didn't rage. She went quiet, turned her phone off for hours, then rang her sister. When Julian got home, she was sitting on the sofa with a packed suitcase beside her. She looked at him with flat, dead eyes and said, I've just been given some very clear perspective on our marriage. I'll be at my sister's. My solicitor will be in touch. And touch he was. Within days Julian was served. Amelia had saved the entire group chat, screenshots and all. His greatest hits were now evidence in a divorce petition citing years of emotional cruelty. Mutual friends told me that in his deposition Julian actually tried the "it's just British humor" defense again. The opposing barrister asked, deadpan, whether he could name the precise county in Britain where publicly shaming your spouse is considered a cherished folk tradition. He lost the house, a massive chunk of his savings, and whatever remained of his swagger. He now lives in a cramped rental and, by all accounts, has lost the ability to form sentences that end in laughter. Back home, Clara and I became hostile flatmates. She moved permanently into the spare room. Conversation was limited to frosty logistics. She spent those weeks convinced I was the villain, not the man who spent years treating his wife like a punchline. Then came the retaliation phase. First, she ran to her family and closest friends with a heavily edited version. Jealous husband deliberately destroys innocent friendship because he can't handle cultural differences in comedy. Her mother rang to lecture me about supporting Clara's friendships. I asked whether she'd enjoy her own husband announcing to company that she cooks like a blenderized badger. Silence, then a hasty goodbye. Next came the money grab. Julian, staring down massive legal bills, clearly coached her. One evening she cornered me. We need to discuss finances, Mark. I've been carrying an unfair load, and Julian reminded me you still owe him from that weekend trip years ago. The debt was £180 for a dinner I repaid in cash the next morning. Now it was suddenly an outstanding loan. She also announced she was emotionally traumatized by my behavior, and it was only fair I pay for her therapy. I looked at her for a long moment, then said calmly, No. There is no debt, and you are not traumatized by me. You're traumatized by the fact your best friend's behavior has consequences for once. That's your problem, not mine. Then I delivered the killing stroke. But since you've brought up money and the state of our marriage, you're right, we should talk to professionals. I'll have my solicitor contact yours tomorrow to discuss asset division. Sound fair? Every drop of blood left her face. She knows I brought the house and the bulk of investments into the marriage, and our ironclad prenup still sits in the safe. She backpedaled so fast she nearly left skid marks. But the mask was fully off now. She had tried, with Julian, to extort me. The choice was made. Final update: 6 months have passed since that last post, and the farce has reached its closing curtain. Julian's divorce was an unmitigated bloodbath. Every joke was dissected in court filings. Amelia walked away with the house and a settlement that reflected years of quiet humiliation. Julian now rents a studio flat and has reportedly gone very quiet indeed. The wit appears to have been an expensive luxury he can no longer afford. Clara tried a few limp gestures toward reconciliation, leaving marriage counseling brochures on the counter, talking about love languages, but never once uttered the words, "I was wrong to defend him," or "He treated Amelia appallingly." It was all about restoring her comfort, never about genuine accountability. That was the final confirmation I needed that I contacted my lawyer and filed. The prenup held like steel. The divorce was swift, clean, and lopsided in exactly the way she suddenly feared it would be. She left with what she brought in plus a modest slice of joint savings. The house stayed mine. She had to find her own place. Her friendship with Julian has apparently cooled considerably. Misery may love company, but it doesn't love splitting legal bills. She lost her husband, her lifestyle, and her hilarious best friend in one fell swoop, all because she refused to say, "That's not funny, show some respect to your wife." I am now officially single. The house is silent, but it's a calm, peaceful silence. My silence. I've reconnected with friends who always found Julian exhausting. I sleep better. I laugh more, and when I do, it's genuine. The phrase British sense of humor used to be Clara's magic get-out-of-jail-free card for cruelty. Turns out the only real magic was consequence, and once the trick was exposed, the illusion vanished and I didn't lash out in rage. I simply removed the excuse, held the mirror up, and let the light in. And the expression on Julian's face when he realized his comedy routine was about to be cross-examined by a divorce lawyer. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the real punchline.